Let me tell you how I usually get ready for a sermon. Rusty usually gives me about 6 weeks' notice, and I start thinking and planning. And then there's the week of where you get everything down and you got your thoughts on paper, and then you spend the weekend making it really pretty. And then there are those Sunday mornings when you're driving into work and you get a text. So then when you pull into the parking garage, you decide to look at the text, and the preacher's sick. Tiffany, just do whatever you want to do. It'll be fine. Well, whether it's short notice or long-term planning, one thing we're always taught: it's not about you, it's about God. It's about the gospel. So this morning, people, this one's about God and the gospel. In our pre-worship meeting, this is what Ryan did to his worship bulletin. Okay, so you're just going to have to listen really well and follow along. A foolish proposition, hospitality. Rusty wrote a beautiful sermon. He sent it ahead to just see if it's something just, wanted to go off of his sermon. But it's a personal sermon. Hospitality has to be personal. So I'm going to let him preach that one to you next time he has opportunity. My version of hospitality comes from Luke 15. It's the parables of the lost sheep, the lost coin, and the lost son. Verse 11. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Now this was not done. You see, the inheritance went upon the deathbed of the patriarch, and it was given routinely to the oldest son. But here the younger son was, just give me my portion. Let me take it. I'm ready to go out on my own." I wonder what the older son was thinking. We're going to find out. We continue. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill the stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. You see, this young son thought as long as he had the material possessions that were due him on earth, he could go out and do what he wanted, live like he wanted. Well, obviously, he didn't invest very well. He didn't have any equity built up. And when a bad time came, the famine, he had to go begging and hired himself out as a slave. The next verse is probably my favorite verse in all of Scripture. Verse 17. When he came to his senses, what did it take for him to come to his senses? He was at the bottom. He was eating with the pigs. He had no friends. No one would give him anything. There was no hospitality in his life. He begged, but no one would give. So he came to his senses. I'm sure you can think of a time when you've come to your senses and turned back home. How many of my father's hired men have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him." Now this is the fun part, because have you ever imagined a conversation with someone, but you practice it before you get there? And you've imagined the response they're going to give, and then you practice your rebuttal? Well, that's what the younger son was doing. I'll say to him, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men." So once he felt confident in himself and his plan, he goes back home. Did he really come to his senses? Was he really going to trust his father? Nope, he had a lot of pretty words ready. But while he was still long away, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. So he ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. I wonder what the younger son was thinking when he saw his father running. Is he running to keep me from getting home? Is he angry? Is he disappointed? Does he want to yell at me or strike me? I'm sure he was timid. I would be if I disappointed my father. Yet we have this image of the father running with his arms wide open, embracing with compassion his son, and giving him a kiss of welcome, a kiss of hospitality. In verse 21, the son says his little sentence of apology, "For I have sinned against heaven and earth and you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son." You see, the son came with shame. He no longer had any pride left. He was coming to beg. And he knew he didn't deserve to be a son anymore. That's not what he asked. Don't welcome me back into the household. Just hire me as one of your servants, because I know you treat your servants better than I was being treated. The father would have none of it. The father said to his servants, "Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." So they began to have a party. They began to celebrate around a table of food and share hospitality. You see, the younger son came with a version of a story, his truth that he knew. He wasn't worthy. And the father reinterpreted the story. You are worthy. You are my son. Come back home. When you've hit your bottom, do you think you're not worthy of God? Is that what your story tells you? Is that the version you're believing? Are you going to believe the version that God shares? You are worthy. You are my child. Come, eat at my table of hospitality. But the parable doesn't end there. There's another figure to look at, the older sibling. The older sibling kind of wants to check things out. He hears all of this partying going on at home when he comes back from the field. He became angry. Well, first he got a servant and he said, what's going on? In verse 27, your brother has come and your father has killed the fatted calf because he has him back safe and sound. So the older brother became angry and refused to go in. Okay, I want you to just get that image going on. There's a party going on inside, and the big brother is outside pouting. All of you who have firstborns, they never pout, do they? You firstborns, did you ever pout about a younger sibling? Never. It's only in Scripture. It's just a parable. So the older sibling is leaning against the wall pouting. And does the father wait for the older brother to come in? No. Just as he ran to meet the young son, he goes out to meet the older brother. But he answered his father, "Look, all these years I've been slaving for you, never disobeyed your orders, yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours," couldn't even say his name, "was squandered, and your property with prostitutes comes home, you kill the fatted calf for him. It's not fair." Can't you hear him saying that? It's not fair. I have been here slaving for you. I have never disobeyed you at all. I am good enough to be your son. I am good enough to be at your table. You didn't even kill a goat for me. I have never eaten a goat, but from what I understand, there's not a whole lot of meat. It's like the smallest token of meat you could give at a party. So the older son was even saying, you've never even given me your least. And here this brother, this son of yours, he's no longer brother, this son of yours comes back and you kill the fatted calf. The calf that you were saving for sacrifice to God. The calf that you were saving for the most important event. And it's not me, the good one. It's the one that has squandered everything. Now, this is the only time I've ever said something wasn't fair. Y'all don't believe me, do you? I had 3 siblings, 2 older brothers, and then a twin brother. And when we were the ages of 17 to 19, we were really close together in age, I decided it was time for me to get a car. All 3 of my brothers received vehicles when they were 16 years old. So I was 17, and I hadn't asked for a car, but I just decided, okay, I'll look around, see if I can get a good deal, and then talk to my parents about it. So, well, let's just talk about the cars. Kyle had a very economical little, I don't even know what it was, a Toyota 4-door, very Kyle, very safe. Then Cameron had a Z28. Do y'all remember those? With the T-top. And then my twin brother had a Camaro with T-top. And so they were really cool. And I got to ride with them, which was really cool. So I was looking for, what did I pick out? It was a LeBaron I thought was cheap. And it was convertible. So I asked my dad just to come on, let's practice driving. And I took him to where this car was being sold. And I said, Dad, you think this is a car that we could buy? And he looked at me and he said, no, honey, you don't need a car. It's not fair. All the boys, they were called boys, lovingly, the boys all have a car. I don't have one. And he looked at me and he said, sis, you're confusing fairness with equality. Being fair isn't always equal. You don't need a car. You see, Kyle needed a car because he was going off to college. Cam needed a car because he's the one that drove us around, so Mom and Dad didn't have to run errands anymore. Tyler got the car because he wrecked all the other cars. This is being taped, isn't it? And my parents thought if he got his own car, he would take good care of it. Well, sure enough, he never wrecked again. And then there was me. He said, anywhere you want to go, your brothers will take you. If you ever need to borrow my car, just ask and I'll give you the keys. You see, God's fairness may seem unfair to us, but he meets us where we are. He gives us just what we need when we needed it. The younger sibling needed his inheritance. He needs to learn on his own that, yes, I need God. I can't do it on my own. And then the older brother, verse 31, is what I think we all need to hear this morning. My son, the father said, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. You are always with me, and everything I have is yours. You never had to slave in the field for me. You never had to be perfect and obedient for me. All you had to do was abide with me, and everything I have has always been yours. But we must celebrate because this son of mine, this brother of yours, was lost and is now found. The younger son was separated by sin, by selfishness. The older son was separated by pride and the illusion that he could be good enough. Which one are you this morning? You may hesitate to come forward to this table of communion because you don't think you're worthy. well, all the sins, all the secrets that you carry with you are irrelevant to God. Or you may think, I have been so obedient, I am so worthy that I'm going to come up. I deserve to be at this table. You know what? You do. But not because of anything you've done, but because of the sacrifice of Christ. Scripture tells us that God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. The next verse we never seem to quote, verse 17. Christ did not come into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Hospitality God's way means you are all invited. You are all welcome, sinner and saint alike, because none of us have it down perfect. You are invited to come, to accept the feast at this table. You are God's child. You are welcome.